Hey YouTube, I thought I would start out my channel today with a review of my favorite model of revolver, and that is the Smith & Wesson 629 Classic. It fires the .44 Magnum cartridge, and I guess I'll start out with a little history of the model 629. It was introduced in 1979 by Smith & Wesson. It was the first stainless steel .44 Magnum to be introduced, closely followed by the Ruger Red Hawk. And it's just the stainless version of the Model 29. It made quite a splash back then. There were some magazine reviews and whatnot. But this model is the classic model. And the only difference between the standard 29 and the classic model is the full underlug barrel down here. It just adds a little bit of weight to the front end. It might make recoil a little less noticeable. As you'll see when I open the cylinder up, you may be able to see down here that there's the model number 629 followed by a dash. And then another number. This one is the 629-6. And all that is differences, slight changes in manufacture by Smith & Wesson. So when they would tweak a manufacturing process or slightly change something in the line, they would add a different dash number. So the first model would be a 629, and then the second iteration of the 629 would have been the 629-1, and all they did was originally the 629 had the recessed cylinders where the head of the case would actually be recessed down to fit flush with the cylinder, and they had a pin barrel like the older Smith & Wessons do, and the 629-1 removed those features. So it would be like this one with no pin in the barrel and no recess in the chambers. Other changes, the 629-4 added the drill and tap for scope mounting. You may be able to see in here that this model is drilled and tapped for mounting a scope. All you have to do is remove the rear sight, and you have the three little holes where you can mount your scope base. And this model is the 629-6, and the change in this one is the dreaded Smith & Wesson safety lock. We'll get into that a little bit more later. 629s come in a number of different barrel length options. You can get 8 3/8 barrels, you can get 6.5, 6. This happens to be the 5-inch barrel. I kind of like that because it's a happy medium. You can carry it relatively easily, but it gives you enough barrel length to have a good sighting plane. So you have enough sighting radius to be able to reach out to 75 or 100 yards with a little bit of practice. And 629s, you can get them all the way down to a 2.5-inch barrel, which is very good for woods carry, or I suppose if you're a big person, a large statured person, even concealed carry. Now, I happen to prefer Smith & Wesson's .44 Magnums to other manufacturers, and it's all a personal preference. It's the Ford versus Chevy debate. I just happen to like the fit, the finish. I like the fact that they're made out of forged steel as opposed to cast steel. I think that can help the frame be a little stronger. I know that there are other manufacturers out there that produce strong guns too. I just happen to like the Smith & Wessons. They have one of the best warranties in the gun world as far as I'm concerned. You get the lifetime warranty, and they pay shipping to the factory and back to you, so all you're out is a couple of weeks where they're working on it. I really haven't had a lot of problems with my Smith & Wessons. This one happens to have a round count of around 3,700 rounds through it. You know, and I'm sure there's some that have had more, but that's what this one has. It still locks up tightly. It still is accurate. The rifling is still strong. By the way, this gun has been safety checked. I'll pop the cylinder, as you can see before. The loads that I use, I'm a hand loader. This gun hasn't seen, I don't believe it's ever seen a factory round before. I shoot mostly cast lead out of them, 240 grain semi-wad cutters for the most part. I like to load kind of mid-range loads with Unique or Winchester 231, probably around 1,000 feet per second or so. I do shoot some heavier loads, and those are mostly jacketed loads that I load with H110 or Winchester 296. I do have a few 300 grain loads that I use, but that's not something that I practice with at the range all the time. That 240 grain semi-wad cutter load is really a pretty comfortable load to plink with, or just, you know, shoot even out to 75 yards or so. I can reach out a ways with it. What do I think the 44 is good for? I think it's a great target gun. You can load them down so it shoots very similar to a 45 ACP. I think it is a great hunting gun. I have shot deer with 44 magnums, not this one in particular, but it's more than capable for deer hunting, bear hunting, moose hunting with the right ammunition. It's a great woods gun, woods protection against critters, bears, things like that. Maybe not the big Alaskan bears, but anything in my neck of the woods, black bear or an angry moose here or there, would be perfect for that. I just think it's a really versatile cartridge, the 44 Magnum. You can load them up, you can load them down. It's quite powerful. You may notice that these are not the factory grips on this firearm. These are replacement Hogue grips. They're the laminate rosewood with the finger grips. They're quite comfortable. I like them a lot. Put them on a little while ago, and I just kind of like the looks of them. Kind of makes the gun pop a little more. And back to one other thing that I said we were going to talk a little more about, and that is the little pimple here in the side of the frame, and that's the Smith & Wesson lock. I have a number of Smith & Wesson 44 revolvers that have the lock, and a number that don't have the lock. A lot of people get pretty wrapped around the axle about that feature. I guess I can understand their point politically, but I've never had a problem with it personally. Everyone's read the internet forums and the internet chatter where people have had problems, and the thing has engaged under recoil, but I haven't had those issues. I think that mostly is with the ultralight scandium frame guns. I've never had the lock magically engage or disengage or anything like that. Yeah, it's not as attractive as a pre-lock gun. It does change the frame, the hammer and the frame interface a little bit. On the older models, the hammer rides a little higher up on the frame. This model, as you'll notice too, doesn't have the hammer mounted firing pin. I kind of like that feature on the older 629s, but this one works very well. It's kind of my range gun. I go out and shoot 100 or 200 rounds at time at the range. It's just kind of mid-level loads, and it's just a really comfortable gun to fire. Has a really nice trigger, single and double action. But kind of back on topic with the lock, I don't have a big problem with it. I can go either way. It doesn't really matter to me. Overall, I love the Smith & Wesson 629s. It was the first gun that I ever purchased as a teenager. It was a model 629, not the classic, the regular barrel. I just love them. I think it's one of the most versatile cartridges that there is. It's relatively common. You can find them in Walmart if you're not a hand loader. Any gun shop will carry 44 Magnum ammunition, and I just like the overall quality and feel of the Smith & Wesson. So this is my first video on the channel, so I thought that I would kind of showcase the 629, where it's my favorite model. I think probably in the future I'll get out and fire these a little bit on camera and show you what they look like in recoil. I've got a number of different loads, from 240 grain light loads up to 320 grain thumpers, and maybe we'll try those out when I can get to the range with the camera. But I'll be showcasing a number of different firearms over the coming weeks and months, and show you what I got. So, alright, until next time, signing off.